We are live. We are living.
We are living pretty large right now under the Mexican sun.
Yeah, this is the most enjoyable podcast setup I've ever been a part of. I think I've done a few of mine outside in the sun. And, the long-term vision is to have a whole studio setup like this. When you see health podcasters indoors under the blue light, they've got their AirPods in. No offense.
Bro, no.
It just doesn't really make sense. Talking about like how healthy can you be with my biomarkers and things. And it's like, bro, get outside.
Yes. Okay, number one, welcome to the Primal Movement podcast. I'm Bam Lionheart, joined today with the powerful SolBrah.
Thank you, Bam.
Thank you for joining me. And that is one thing I'm very aware of. I have a deep relationship and love with my AirPods. But there's this voice in the back of my head that's like, hey, man, I don't know if this is something that we should be doing as frequently as often, because I probably have them in my ears in a good day, 5 hours.
Wow.
That's a long time.
That is a significant portion of your day. Look, if you use them, I used to use them for years. They're awesome. You put them on. Okay, let me caveat that. Their technology is awesome. And you can just shut out the world, and there's noise cancelling and all the rest of it. And then you just... But they are talking to each other through the technology, the wireless technology of Bluetooth. And they talk to each other through the shortest distance possible, which is through your brain. And, use it for a little bit in noisy places for one phone call. It's not ideal. Probably not going to harm you that too much. But 5 hours a day is, I would say, too much. And you would probably find some level of mental clarity, less brain inflammation if you stopped that. But you have an emotional attachment to it.
You know what I have an emotional attachment to is the ability to put those things in. This is what happened. I was like, I don't really need these anymore. But when they came out with the newest one, where when I put them in, it did, and it turned the world silent for me.
Yeah.
That was like just immediately set my nervous system like lower, because I'm a little bit sensitive to sound. So I have a really strong attachment to that. And then the ability to just blare heavy metal music and shut out the world. Which, I mean, we'd just get into, like, why does Bam want to shut out the world type of thing?
Yep.
In exchange for microwaving his brain. I guess that's where we're going.
Yeah.
With that. But I love shutting out the world and getting into my own head.
Now, is there a way to do that without the wireless technology? Not all the time. The world is noisy. There are dogs and birds. Nature sounds, I feel like they don't have the same level of nervous system arousal, so like you don't really want to shut out that.
It's like the city and like the humdrum of traffic and people like talking in the background that is difficult to tune out. But I think that is probably, just like anything, a meditation and a skill that you can develop. But the ease of technology is the trade-off.
The convenience is how they always get you. The apple on the tree, the iPhone apple on the tree of convenience. Just take it. Look, it's yummy. It's a yummy, juicy apple. Don't you want to taste? And then you're out of the Garden of Eden. And that therein lies the trade-off and reality of our world today.
Yeah.
With health and most things.
So I'm going to paint a picture for you, and I think we're just going to talk about this person for a while, because it could just serve as what I really like to do with you is to look at the current state of how humans go about the gym culture.
Yes. And
what lessons we can learn from the common gym goer, and maybe how they could do it better. Where we'd like to see this person be in 5-10 years. So if everyone listening, and if you will join me, this person is somebody who wants to be better and do good in their life, and they show up in the gym. The first thing that they're wearing are some XL Nike sneakers. They look really cool. Then they got on some tights, some polyester tights underneath some nice, let's say, Gymsharky classic Adidas shorts that are sweat wicking. Okay, they smell pretty nice. They are covered in men's Dove or some kind of other like nice manly
Lynx.
Something Axe body spray. While they're walking into the gym, there's two things that I notice. They've got AirPods in.
Mm-hmm.
They're wearing sunglasses and sipping on a C4 Cellucor.
Oh, I love those.
Preparing their body to go into the gym.
Out of the plastic shaker.
Out of the plastic shaker. And so this person is going to the gym, and they're showing up because they want to be a better person. Using this model that we've created, I'm sure everyone can see this, both males and females. Maybe you've been in that person. I certainly was that
I've been
person.
that guy.
I've been that guy. So let's some of the things that jump out to you that you would really like to talk about, because you have helped shape my idea and concept of health, of a regenerative lifestyle, and just vitality in general. So when you notice this type of person in your mind's eye, what are some of the things that come to you?
Right. So, well, why don't we work through it layer by layer? First thing you mentioned was the shoes. You know more about this than me, but when we wear shoes that are primarily designed for fashion, or they're designed for athleticism and running by companies that don't actually get those things,
right?
You end up with a subpar experience and relation of the person in relation to the ground and how their muscles and joints move with respect to that. And that affects every single other exercise you do, including just walking around. And over time, we're wearing shoes from babies come out with, the plastic, plastic feet, where they can move like this, wide. And then we put them in their cute little baby Nikes, and then, don't go running outside, put shoes on, and slowly over years and years and years, school shoes thrown in the mix, all the rest of it. And then you get these little pencil feet, which we all are recovering from still. All of that has a carry-on effect from the bottom to top of dysfunction. And that obviously relates to lifting weights, because you can't set a proper base even if you're doing a curl, but your feet are all off balance. And if you're squatting with hundreds of pounds on your back, but you're on these you're almost on high heels because you're wearing your big Air Maxes, and your foot's up like this and it's squished like this, your base, like think about a tripod of a camera. The tripod, unless you put the feet out, it's going to fall over.
Right.
So the same thing, if your toes are all squished, we just have less balance, and therefore less athleticism and all the rest of it. Now, there are small use cases, for example, professional football players, where they have those foot wrap, like very small shoes which enable to hit the ball in a certain manner. We're not looking at professional athletes for the most part. So the average person, or should I say normal person, who wants to be better, I would recommend straight away, even if you weren't in the gym, your grandma should be doing this, is barefoot as much as possible. And if you do wear shoes, wear some with a big wide toe box so that your feet can properly move, and always train with that flat, very thin sole, because immediately you'll be stronger, more mobile, and have a better time, less dysfunction.
Yeah, to speak a little bit on that from my standpoint, the raised heel, when worn excessively, like all the time, will actually shorten the Achilles, shorten the calf muscles, shorten the whole backside of the body. So then when you are barefoot or in a minimalist style shoe, like even like a Vans, your body will be in a constantly stretched position. And so those high heel shoes, or even women who wear high heels to work every single day, the backside of their body is slowly shortening in length because the heel doesn't have to rest on the ground. And then the thicker the sole, the less feedback you get from the ground. So you can't really tell, like let's say you're doing a back squat or you are doing any kind of resistance training, how your feet respond to the pressure and the demand of the movement will help you kind of make sure that exercise is done correctly. So where we are wearing like large shoes, big Nikes, like even just thick soles, it does take away our ability to like even understand what's happening while we're exercising. okay, last thing on the shoes before we go on, and you could speak to this. Now we're wearing shoes, and we're wearing shoes because we live in a concrete world, and it feels better, so it's a little bit more convenient to wear something that's thicker for us. But that also like separates us from the actual ground, as in grounding. And I think there's people that are aware of grounding, and then other people that might think it's a little bit woo-woo. Can you give us the quick and easy deep dive on grounding for our feet?
Yeah, so the earth is constantly emitting an electrical field. We are part of that, and we can either be cut off from that with an insulating rubber sole of our shoe, or we can have our bare feet on the ground or some other similar conductive material between the earth and us in order to absorb that electrical field. That electrical field passes through our entire bodies and reorganizes our electrical charge so that our blood flows better, our inflammation is lowered, our synapses fire better, we have less negative thoughts. Like, all of this is tied in relation to how much time we are in alignment with the Earth's electrical field, just as every other animal in nature is on the grass. The thing is like, these electrical fields, the air carries an electrical charge which grounds us. Water does as well. Obviously, sand at the beach, and this is why going to the beach is one of the best ways to just get that electrical field back. With concrete, some types of concrete are, so I think concrete actually does carry the electrical charge if it's just the earth and then concrete and then you with bare feet, but it's not one-to-one. Asphalt or bitumen, which is what our roads are, and pavement for the most part, that blocks charge. So if you're walking around the city, you're like, I'm grounding. It doesn't really work that way. You need to find some grass for the most part. And ideally, you should be spending as much time doing this as possible, because the more you do that, the healthier you're going to be across all metrics, keeping other things the same. So the gym environment in general is lacking this. And this is why I also recommend, when you can, taking your training sessions outside. We'll get back to that at the end of this analysis of this gym goer. But one thing to mention also is socks.
Yeah.
You may take your shoes off and be like, all right, got my socks on, now I'm going to do my squat. Get rid of those annoying shoes. Socks still are very, very tight.
Still, yeah.
They're bringing the toes together. You know, if you're wearing socks just in your house all day, that's hours and hours and hours where your toes aren't being able to, you know, spread out properly. So that's another thing to look out for, as well as 99% of socks being a polyester blend. Even though you got to look really close, because these companies are shady. It'd be like cotton socks, and you'd be like, great, cotton socks, that's what I want, SoBrah. So cotton, fuck polyester, cool. And then you look actually, and it'd be like 30% cotton, 70% nylon, or something like that. And it's like, there are very lax laws and rules for how you can label these things. As long as it has cotton in it, call it cotton socks. So not only is that obviously a synthetic fiber, your feet are some of the most porous skin in the body, so you're going to be absorbing those endocrine disrupting chemicals from the synthetic fibers, but it also stinks. Polyester in general, and we'll go up the chain to what else this guy's wearing, but if you get stinky feet after working out, that's usually because the shoe itself is mostly polyester most of the time, all of those Nike running shoes. Then you put polyester socks on top of that, and then you sweat. Polyester itself doesn't allow the moisture to release, and it promotes the buildup of bacteria, so you get that disgusting smell. If you're wearing a full cotton outfit, loose cotton, 100% cotton socks, you can run, you can sweat, hang it up to dry, it won't stink. Like, the bacteria goes away, the moisture goes away. And so this dichotomy between shifting to natural fibers instead of polyester, it's really just better across the board for so many reasons, in terms of the utility of the material, how your skin breathes, and temperature regulates through sweating and things. So it's really, you're really not diminishing any actual performance by doing so, and you're only getting dubs when you make that switch.
That was a switch that, you know, when I first heard it, I thought it was just more of a superiority complex, almost like I just enjoy nicer materials. It wasn't until I heard you talk about that polyester is just plastic, just threaded and made into a fabric. So it's just plastic.
Yeah.
So it's plastic that I'm putting on my body, and I'm doing extremely vigorous training. And there's a lot of friction. There's like a lot of things. And of course my skin is porous. And so saying like that some of this plastic is getting into my body. I, from 15 to early 20s and even mid 20s, every single day was wearing some type of really tight polyester on the jiu-jitsu mats and just like sweating for hours.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like hit me like hard for people that haven't really been necessarily introduced to this idea of your body imbibing this plastic when you wear it. Can you give us the rundown on plastic being ingested in the body through our clothes, which when I say it like that is a pretty sounds extreme.
Yeah, well, it's fairly simple as a process, because when we eat something, we think about it as going inside our bodies, literally. But the body itself and the digestive system is like this big donut. We are big donuts. So we're putting something on the inside, and the internal walls of our digestive system are porous, and then things get absorbed in that way. But the external, the outside of this donut, is also porous in a lot of ways. Things come out. We sweat out. We sweat out toxins. We sweat out microplastics and heavy metals and pus and all these kind of waste products that your body's like, get it out of here. That's the skin's role. It's not as porous as the inside, because we don't want to be, the skin does offer a lot of protection for that purpose, but it still does take into things. This is why we can put things on our skin like coconut oil, and it'll be absorbed and moisturize us, and that's great and good. But then when you're wearing these plastic materials all day, you're going to be getting microplastic fibers, which contain a whole bunch of chemicals. Not only, like if it was just plastic, that's one thing, but because polyester is highly flammable, as is the derivative of oil, they have to treat these clothing products with anti-fire chemicals.
Yeah.
So flame retardants.
Yes.
So you're getting that. There's a whole bunch of other stuff, which, because it's a piece of clothing and you're not eating it, it is not subject to the same rigorous rules and regulations as a food item would be classified that way. So it really is just like this mass. Bed sheets.
Yeah.
Bed sheets are another one. Go check your bed sheets tonight when you get into bed, and you may have been crawling into a plastic bag to sleep and sweat in for years.
Yeah.
That's another huge one. And so it's like, you just got to figure out, okay, my skin is absorbing whatever I put on it. The tightness as well of polyester. Oh, it's tight and stretchy. It makes my muscles look good, makes my body look good. That's great. However, when you're constricting various parts of the skin as well, take the plastic part out of it, you're going to be losing some functionality as well. So loose fitting, ideally organic cotton clothes, linen, wool, are really the only things that I recommend to wear for a whole bunch of reasons. Another interesting point is the electrostatic effect of polyester. So polyester, particularly worn, they had this study where they put polyester underwear on dogs and had them go about their dog business for a couple of weeks or so while wearing these tight polyester underwear, which, all the cool guys wearing their Calvin Kleins and whatever else is the rage these days. But what they found in this study was that the dogs were infertile after a couple of weeks. Their testicles were so squished by these tight clothing, plus the electrostatic potential of when the polyester fibers are moving around as we're running in my Nike dry fit and stuff, like that has some level of inflammatory negative effect on the machinery that makes us men and produces our testosterone, and it reduces sperm quality. So that is not a good idea for anyone to partake in.
And especially it's hard to really grasp when I hear something like that. Like if I'm like, let's say wearing a 50-50, like a polyester 50 blend or something. And I can feel in myself and probably other people that are hearing this, like, oh, like, come on, I'm going to wear one t-shirt and you're telling me it's doing all this, or one set of spandex boxer briefs and it's really hurting my body. But I think what is helpful for me, and for anyone else listening is, okay, I don't think about it as just one instance, but I think about, I was training jiu-jitsu 4, sometimes 6 days a week for maybe 2 hours every single day. So that's just compounded hours and hours and hours and hours of being subjected to a material that I rationally and logically know I don't want myself to be ingesting any part of it.
Yep.
Like zero part of it, I know. Yep. So just, it's like those small choices that we repeat over a lifetime.
That's what makes it health.
That's what makes it health. And so it's not just, oh, should I wear this piece of clothing or not? But if this becomes a habit of you wearing those Nike Dry Fit, those spandex shorts or whatever, how is that going to compound over time and change the chemistry and the hormones of the body?
It's about optimizing, right? There are many, many athletes around the world who are phenomenal athletes, and whether or not they wear polyester or cotton probably won't impact it that much. However, we want to optimize, and once you know these things, it just feels better. I've had so many people say to me, man, I don't know what it is, but when I stopped wearing polyester, like, I just feel better. And so it's one of those things you may not, it's not consciously like you put your polyester on and then it's like, oh, whatever. But speaking from experience and lots of people that I've told this about, it does make a meaningful change. And just try it out. And I know it just feels better on every level to do so. And it's also like, what you're giving your money to is what you're supporting. And these companies that are just blasting out plastic because it's so profitable, and some of these luxury brands, those big puffer jackets which cost $800, and they're just plastic bags with plastic filling in it. Oh, it's all warm, but it's, compare that to a wool jacket with goose down filling. Like, there's just no contest. Mm-hmm. And that's the culture that we need to go back to, because that was the culture until a few decades ago when they realized, oh, actually we can make a lot of money by changing these petrochemicals into clothing and telling people it's this cool new fashionable thing and all the rest of it. And if our goal, which it is macro health increases, then this is one of the things that will make a huge change, because most of the work uniforms that people have to work in these days are polyester based, and it's really how we live our lives. Yeah,
I know. Speaking of, I had a good friend who wanted to increase their testosterone so that they could have a baby. They were trying for a while, and one of the biggest things that he looked at was how much plastic is he consuming and wearing on his body in trying to combat testosterone levels and to become a father. So huge. Looking at bed sheets, looking at the clothes we're wearing, and just making some better choices.
What are you drinking out of?
Yeah,
plastic water bottles. Big one.
The to-go coffee cups and the coffee lids.
Ooh, yeah, that's one that people don't realize. So the paper disposable coffee cups you get, it's recyclable as paper. But paper isn't waterproof.
No.
What they have to do in order to hold liquid without the paper cup dissolving is spray the inside with a plastic lining that repels water to get it out of the paper. So you pour your hot drink in, you're getting this soup of microplastics that come off the lining in order to, have your convenient takeaway coffee cup. I travel around pretty much everywhere I go with my ceramic mug, and I'll bring it to the cafe. Hey, can you put my thing in here? And it's not a big deal. None of these choices are a big deal. You can get secondhand cotton clothing from most retro stores, vintage stores, secondhand stores, Goodwills, because that was what was around back in the day. So just, check labels on everything. And the less plastic you have in your life is really the better. Yeah. And you're going to feel better and look better, and fuck plastic.
So now this individual then is, let's talk about that. They have a distinct smell of some pre-workout body wash / deodorant that they've put on. And I mean, all of these things have an emotional piece to it. Like, people wear the tight-fitting polyester clothes because maybe they look more muscular, or they're a little bit insecure about some extra weight, and it kind of ties things in. Then we have insecurities about how we smell.
Yep.
As humans, not wanting to have like BO. So we choose to bathe ourselves with chemicals, nice, yummy chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up with Axe body spray in school.
Yeah, me too.
That was just like everywhere.
Yep.
Everyone was using it, and it was kind of cool. And then coming to realize that these things also are not in our best interest at all.
They're terrible. So let's go through them all, really. So the body wash and shampoos that most people are washing themselves in every day, twice a day, if not more. Again, it goes back to what's going on the body is going in the body. But they don't have to be regulated like food does, and they can put whatever the fuck they want in there. Some of them will even have seed oils in. But if you just look at the ingredients of the classic Dove body wash or Axe or whatever it is that you're using, most of the time there's going to be a bunch of synthetic stuff that you can't pronounce, artificial colorings, artificial flavorings, legit endocrine disruptors, which are listed on EWG as one of the environmental databases. You can go just the exercise. If you have one of these things, go look up each individual ingredient. Some of them have cancer risks. I would say all of them are a cancer risk. It's just whether or not they've been discovered to be that at this point. But none of this is essential to actually being clean. Mm-hmm. It's just this kind of fake chemical cover-up. And then under the armpits, the groin, all of those areas which you scrub in order to be clean, they're the most absorbable areas. Going straight on your balls, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Shampoo as well. Those chemical mixes that you're rubbing into your scalp, what's just under your scalp? Your brain. Anything you're putting on your scalp is going to the bloodstream right next to your brain. So all of these things are going into your body. They're wreaking havoc. Your body doesn't know what to do with them. They're unnatural. The companies have no liability as to these small incremental chronic health effects that they have. They don't give a shit. They just want you to keep buying it and smelling good and all the rest of it. You actually don't need that to be clean. Mm-mm. The olive oil soap that I'm making, Soul Soap, this will be out soon for you guys. Guess the ingredients: extra virgin organic olive oil, and lye, which is the traditional how they make soap. It's the foaming agent, and then the curing process is pretty much just olive oil left. That will clean you of any excess dirt that you get from just being out and about, and really that's all you need. If you want an extra step for a holistic shampoo, that's another story. But I wash my hair with the olive oil soap, and if you are living a healthy life, what actually makes you stink is these random chemicals, waste byproducts from your diet, or lack of sweating in general, just kind of accumulating all of this waste product. That's what makes you smell. It's not something that you need to cover up with, because once you clean up your diet and sweat properly and exercise and hydrate and all the rest of it, have an alkaline diet, you don't stink. And being stinky is a sign that maybe there's something going on under the hood. Most people will just spray themselves with antiperspirant deodorant, which is another issue. Okay, sweat is the main pathway for detox. If we're spraying our armpits, then suddenly we can't detox as well while you're doing your most sweating activity in the gym. It's like there's just so many levels at which we are adding toxins to our body, preventing the ways that we get those toxins out, and then we wonder why cancer rates are increasing. Deodorants as well, terrible ingredients. And what was the other one? Perfumes.
Oh, yeah.
Perfumes. I used to love Versace Blue. That smells great. Ton of compliments. But what are the ingredients on a perfume? Perfume. Well, what does that mean? You know, there's all the, again, chemicals, endocrine disruptors. I don't have to repeat myself, but it's 3 separate. So body wash, deodorant, perfume, face cream, shampoo. Boom. Suddenly, twice a day, you're just injecting soy into your bloodstream and then wondering why your dick doesn't work. So, yeah, just things to be to be aware of. And I know from experience and all the people that I've helped that reducing our exposure and eliminating our exposure to all these things it is the true pathway to optimal health.
Mm-hmm. You know, I really enjoy the sovereignty conversation around this as well. Like, I understand that people want to smell good. People want to have a good aroma so that people will enjoy being around them, so people will like them, so they will feel safe and accepted by other people, and attractive. That feels good. And people just in general want to feel good, which I understand. But if let's say you are a smellier person at this time in your life, for whatever reason, and you do have to rely on Old Spice body wash in order to be able to go out, or that deodorant stick that is, you know, everyone keeps one in their bag or like in their car, and they're constantly applying this, like throwing gum in your mouth to like make sure your mouth is fresh.
Gum is plastic, by the way.
Gum is chewing on plastic. So we're chewing on plastic, we're putting plastic everywhere, and we're imbibing it, and we're wondering why we're detoxing some smells that aren't good.
Yeah.
One thing or one idea that I think could be helpful around this is that our body, just like an animal body, like a dog that's well cared for, or an animal, they have an odor, a neutral odor that isn't necessarily bad. It's just like a pheromones. We're going to release pheromones from our body that should be normal. They shouldn't be offensive to us or to anyone else. And if you are putting out those pheromones, there's a lot of information in those. When you smell somebody who has a natural pheromone odor that's coming off of them, you kind of have a gauge on their gut health, something about their vibe, as well as attracting partners. You know, you don't want to be attracting a partner with an Old Spice smell, but them to be attracted to your actual pheromones that you're giving off. So not needing to cover those up. Just some thoughts around smelling, because I'm not a deodorant person. Yeah. You know, I'm not. Yeah.
I mean, there are products which are magnesium based, essential oils. Like, there are ways to smell good that don't need to feed the petrochemical complex that dominates our beauty product industry. So I have a company called SolSense, which are blends of essential oils with olive oil or coconut oil or jojoba oil as the carrier, but you can just roll them on your wrist and neck as a little spruce up, and they're all natural. They're essential oils in various blends. As a girl, if you made your own rose oil, vanilla oil, sprinkle that through your hair. Maybe sometimes I'll just get a fresh orange. I've peeled the orange, and I'll just mush up the peel and rub that on. Boom, now you smell like fresh oranges. That is 1,000,000 times better than the toxic bombs that we are kind of just used to now.
Yeah.
And once you make this shift, it's very interesting. I travel a decent amount, and you have to go through airports, and they have the duty-free lounges, and they always make you walk through the perfume store on the way. That is one where I test my carbon dioxide tolerance, because I see it and I go and get through to the other side, because when you cut out these things, you really figure out, dang, this actually doesn't smell good.
Yeah, it's offensive.
Like, it's very offensive. They smell like chemicals.
Yep.
Another one, which is not really related to the personal body as such, but all the cleaning chemicals and air freshener sprays, like Febreze.
Yeah.
Like, that's not good to be breathing in. And when you smell something, you're breathing it in.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the nature of it. If you stink, or something in your environment stinks, and then you spray something on top of it, it's kind of like this medical thing where we're treating a symptom but not the root cause.
Yep.
So you're just kind of covering it up, and then it smells like shit and Febreze, which is not really helpful. But yeah, perfumes can be done in a healthy way, and smelling like fruit, fresh tallow on your skin, coconuts, olive oil, all of that is a much more healthy way, and in my opinion, more delicious way to smell good and allow your natural pheromones to shine through, which should be operating on a good level once you are healthy or improving your health.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, that smell communication gives you a lot of information as to whether someone will be a good mate for you or not. Like if the smell of your partner drives you wild, not any other perfume or anything, just the smell of them and their microbiome, that's a really good sign that you're pretty compatible.
Right.
So that's something to pay attention to. It's like that thing with girls on birth control. They'll come off birth control, which is the biggest poison that I think's one of the biggest poisons perpetrated on humankind today, is just go on the pill or whatever. But that changes their sense of smell. It changes what smells they're attracted to, and also just what kind of person they're attracted to. So that's like genuinely just completely messing with your hormones, of which all of these chemicals do. Like you'll find yourself with a different mindset. Higher testosterone means that you're going to be getting at life in a better way, problem solving. You're not going to run away from conflict, more confident. So these are real tangible things that, if you do one of them, wear perfume every now and then and everything else is perfect, sure, you'll probably be fine. But when it's most people doing most of these things every day for hours a day, then there are widespread effects.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just imagining even taking 2 showers a day, and every shower you're using body wash, and then after you get out of the shower you're putting on a deodorant stick, and then maybe you're putting on some smells on top of that.
Yeah.
And then if you're wearing polyester clothes and you're walking into a gym with some unnatural air fresheners in a air
cleaning
conditioned
chemicals,
room, it's just like
blue light.
We've almost been living in it so much that we don't realize how much stuff is on our bodies, getting into our bodies and around us. And so when making that transition, or when you start to notice these things and transition out of it, there's almost like this, you become an outsider, and a lot of people are afraid of looking other and like being like, oh yeah, I don't really shampoo. Like for me, people ask me a lot about my hair, and I tell them,
beautiful hair.
Thank you. I don't shampoo my hair. And that's like, people are like, what? And I know people that want to also not have to feel this compulsion to shampoo their hair and wear deodorant every time they go out. There's this intuition that like, hey, do I need all of this stuff just to be quote unquote clean? But then there's this fear of looking like other and not being accepted by the herd. You seem to be somebody that's just able to pierce the veil and stand as who you are. It's one of the reasons why I enjoy being around you so much. So for somebody that is exercising that muscle and is a little bit timid, maybe they've just started exercising that muscle of making choices for their health, which other people might see as weird or silly. What advice would you have to say to those people? I'm thinking like a young man, young female who's starting on this journey is feeling a little bit awkward.
I definitely felt awkward when I first started to do some of the things that I did and voicing my opinion about things that I'd learned. So it hasn't been an overnight process for me. As to now, I'm genuinely at the point where if I see the validity in doing something, I'll at least test it or cut it out and or do it with literally zero care about who sees me doing it or what I look like, whatever, because I'm just experimenting with it if it's something new, or I know that it adds to my life, or I know it's the best way to conduct myself, so I'm just going to do it and I don't give a shit. Like that's just where I'm at now. But it does take a lot of time. Well, look, I don't want to put limits on it. Tomorrow, you can start acting with pure authenticity, and you can put into action anything that you learn with zero regard for other people, because it's your life, it's your body, and it's your health. And you have to mentally make the switch where, why am I limiting myself based on what I think are other people's perceptions of me? So there's several layers to this. It's very rare that someone will actually come up to you and say, bro, I saw you washing with olive oil soap. Like, have you shampooed your hair recently? Like, those kinds of interactions don't really happen unless it's like a really close friend or a family member and they notice something. But then you just have a loving discussion, say, hey, yeah, did you know that? Like, do you actually know what's in your shampoo? And you open the door for them to do their own investigation and give yourself some level of explanation for why you don't do it. Not that you have to explain yourself at all, but it is about making that mental distinction within yourself, because those one-on-one interactions don't happen very often. It's usually our perceived fear of people's opinions that aren't voiced, aren't said to us directly. It's just what we're scared of what they might say.
Right.
And so it's this mental fabrication that keeps us limited. And that extends to everything, not just whether or not you wear perfume or whatever, but understanding that no one thinks about you as much as you think they are thinking about you.
Most people don't care.
Like, think about how often you think about the hygiene habits of someone in your loose social circle. Never.
Yeah.
Doesn't happen. You know? Maybe you smelled someone who smelled really bad once and you're like, dang, that guy smelled. Never crosses your mind again. And not to say that that's the experience you'll have once you start cutting out all these things, because you probably smell better. But it really is just about, this is my life. These are the choices I want to make for myself. I'm trying this out. I'm going to feel healthier. And it's kind of like if you let other people's perception of you direct how you act, you're going to be very, very unhappy. So that's your choice. That's your choice, is to be who you are and authentic in all regards, down to the food you eat. Food is a big one. If you try to eat healthier at home and your parents or brother or something is like, oh, big bodybuilder guy is trying to put on some muscle, it's like, yeah, I am. Own it. I'm eating some more food and I don't want to eat seed oils. Sue me. You know? The trick about it is to not get argumentative, because then you're defending yourself and you're kind of lowering your energy because of that.
Yeah.
It's like, just smile and wave. If someone is genuinely that much of a dickhead to come up and like rib you for you trying to improve yourself, then just let them be like, yeah, dude.
Yep. The one that is my favorite that I've been dealing with for a while and enjoying, and that I invite other people into, is the public movement space. There are these unspoken rules of movement in the world. Like, even in this situation, anyone watching right now, if you haven't, like, we're on the ground doing a podcast. Very not common. In a restaurant, you can sit at the desk. It's normal to walk to the bar or walk to the bathroom. It's not common to sit on the floor or to eat standing up. And if there was somebody standing up, everyone would have their eyes like, what's going on with this person? So
or I've seen you pop a squat in the chair. Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
The dinner, yeah. My favorite is at the bar, dude. People are like, whoa.
On the bar chairs?
The high top.
Yeah.
If I'm eating at the bar.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. So I'll enjoy doing those things. I enjoy stretching in places like the airport, or even in the grocery store. Like, anytime I'm in line, like, just allowing my body to move freely, especially when I'm doing it for the health of my joints and my connective tissue. And that's one of those other areas where it's like, it's not comfortable to just stand like a robot rigid in line and just wait for the cashier to get like done. Like, if I'm going to be in line, let me do some things. I can go into my phone or drift off in my head, or I could use that time to open up my hips or etc. That's one of my favorite, and we've had a pretty cool time, you being around me, to just give yourself access to do that. Have you done that in the past? And when you started to, or even just hanging out with me these past couple weeks, have you noticed that feeling come up in your body at all?
Yeah, well, so when I first started trying to improve my flexibility years and years ago, it just made sense that if I had some other dead time, why not stretch?
Right.
Also, that can be watching TV, it could be whatever. Of course, when you add that public element, it's slightly different. Like, if I do pull-ups on a tree, it's like, or not even a tree in a park, just a girder or something, it's like, what is this guy doing? He's insane. It's like, people are just so mind tunneled into what is like short circuiting, NPC. And I don't necessarily know how that's come about and what started it, but that is the reality, that we can feel uncomfortable in Western society doing something which is really quintessentially human, and should be encouraged in every way, like stretch all the time, move around, hang, jump, run, climb, everywhere, in every facet of our society, if we want to be healthy. And if we don't, and we let these social things dictate robotic movement all the time, then we're going to end up with what is the case of people falling and breaking their hips when they're 80, because they've spent decades of not wanting to be seen as weird and doing all the rest of it. So hanging out with you definitely gives me more permission, or even just a reminder that where I would just sit in the chair, usually it's like, oh, Bam's chucking his leg out on the other chair, or he's just fully squatting in the chair, and no one really cares. That's again. So going back to that thing, no one really thinks about you as much as you think. That nobody actually does really care that much. I do think there is I know that there is some level of, I'm English, so I have this decorum, like politeness, just drilled into my head. So I'm always aware of other people, and if I'm in a restaurant, I'm not going to be hanging from the rafters. I think that's just rude. But, you know, hamstring stretch, squat because you're tight, none of that is really going over these rules of social decorum. And you exhibit that in every way, which is really cool.
I think that what you said is the best about hanging out with people who are choosing something else, and it's just giving options for ourselves. Like when I think about the person who's just been so programmed and used to shampoo and body wash. You do body wash, then you do shampoo. Let's say you do go into the gym and you go into the bathroom to shower after your gym session. They will always provide a little box with
pink goo
body wash and shampoo. So if you're somebody who hasn't even looked at these things and knowing, that there is actually another option, that you can bring your own soaps if you want, and you don't have to use those. Or there's a chair here, and there's many ways to engage with that chair. There's many ways to go about moving through your environment that isn't necessarily everyone else seems. So just having options and giving people these options is, I think that's one of the reasons, just what you and I do for ourselves and for other people, give them options.
I think that it's important to intentionally seek out situations where you feel awkward. And you got me with one when we had dinner. We had dinner one of the first nights in Tulum. And Bam goes, okay, we're all going to stand up. There were 4 of us. So all of us around the table will stand up, we'll hold hands, and we'll say the prayer. And I have nothing against saying a prayer. If I remember, I'll say a prayer at every meal and hold hands. That's fine. But something about just standing up together, all 4 of us. There were some big units at the table as well, so it's not like just a little stand up. I just couldn't do it. I was like, no. Let's just do it. Sit down. And maybe you could argue that it would have been a bit strange, but in the grand scheme of things, if we stood up and did a prayer for 40 seconds and then sat down again, no issue whatsoever. But it was very interesting as to the resistance that I felt to do that. And the more that you can test that muscle of feeling the awkwardness and feeling the attention on you from going against those social differences that you may engage in, the better, because that links into your stage fright of performance in general. And it's the fear of public speaking is also the fear of that attention being on you, so it's linked. And so one of the things that helped me kind of get over this when I was younger was I was in school plays. And if you've never been exposed to that, getting up in front of people and having a spotlight on you, literally, and performing, it's fucking scary. But then you do it, and then it's like, okay, it's not that scary. And if you can consciously, intentionally try to do that more often, things like Toastmasters, you just go to your community, local thing and talk in front of people. If you don't do any of that, maybe you'll come up to a career moment where they're like, hey mate, can you do this work presentation? And you'd be like, oh, this is scary. Fuck, I don't want to. And so it's really a life skill to be able to not care about any of the social ramifications at the time, perform, have attention on you, be able to direct energy, receive energy, and not let it just make you throw up from fear. Have that anxiety, which is just energy. That's how you should reframe it. But that's a very important life skill.
Yeah. John Jones says that nervousness or that anxiety is really just energy, and he says that's when you're your most powerful. Yeah. Which is, for a lot of us, to know what to do with that power when we do have that is a skill, like a muscle to learn. We were talking about it as surrendering to those moments, those moments where you are in the spotlight or you do feel uncomfortable. And the surrender muscle is one that, when exercised regularly, it has a very profound impact on your life in many, many ways.
So the surrender concept is, I think, something that's so incredible. And there's surrendering in that sense to just accepting what is happening in the moment and not trying to freak out about it. But the macro level of surrender as a life philosophy is something that I've implemented over the last couple years, really. And it's this idea that God has a plan for you that is ultimately higher and greater and more beautiful and more powerful than anything that we could think up in our small human minds. Not small human minds, but human minds. And some people tap out of that because there's a religious connotation straight away. But it's really ineffable from my own observation about how my life has played out. And understanding that whatever I am meant to do here in this life as SolBrah, things are being put in motion for me, and connections are made for me, and people come into my life to help me do things. And what I put out and what I choose to do and the things that I focus on and where I go, as long as I am putting myself in the arena and kind of just going forward to the next thing, and okay, you gave me that task, this comes, then I get a phone call, hey, come here, okay, let's go there, and then I meet someone there. I could not have planned any of this. I didn't plan any of this, but I've been able to surrender to whatever pathway that I'm on now and trust that God has it all figured out, which he does, whatever that is. And the success that I've had, the beauty that I've experienced, and the lack of anxiety about it all has come from surrendering to that divine will. And there's really not many more powerful things than orchestrating your life around that central principle, especially when it relates to, this is actually pretty tough and I'm scared about it, but I have to surrender to that as well. You surrender to the good things, that's easy. But you got to surrender to the trials and tribulations as well, the work that you have to put in. Like, it's not that everything is done for you as such, but surrendering really started, I was reading a book, The Surrender Experiment. I read a book, Surrender Experiment, which really crystallizes this concept with really, really obvious, undeniable life experience of this guy, Michael Saylor? No, maybe that. The Surrender Experiment is the name of the book. But he built this billion-dollar tech company and got through homelessness and was meditating and just like boom, boom, like these chain of events which he could, like, people would come into his life, the perfect tech manager that I needed at the time, and then this contract came through giving me the exact amount of money that I needed to buy this land, and then this land eventually developed into the yoga center that I'd been wanting all my life. All of these just like ba 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 ba, and throughout it he was just like, okay, I'm surrendering, what's the next thing? Work on that next thing, boom, surrender to, like, you can't deny that. And that same principle is played out in my life since I've started implementing it. And I really, really encourage you all to do that as well.
Yeah. Maybe you knew this or maybe you didn't, but you are the representation of surrender to me. when I think about my friends and my influences, somebody when things are difficult or when you know the path that you need to walk down. When we had met in Miami one time, I think the second time that we had met, and at that time I had just started my own business and was in this place of unknown, but here I am on this path, surrender to the path. The other choice was just get a nice corporate job, hang up the gloves type of thing. Yeah. And was able just to feel the surrender energy that you live your life by. It's very noticeable and tangible in your movements and the way you speak, the way you carry yourself, and was helpful to me to say, like, this thing is going to happen in a good way. I don't know everything. I'm just going to show up to this process and breathe through it. And I love that we're talking about smelling and looking weird and not wearing plastics, because even when you start to make those choices of, actually, I'm not going to eat this type of food, or I'm going to let go of the want to put on deodorant and, control, make sure that I'm not smelling weird, and just being like, oh, I didn't put it on deodorant today. Here's the fear of I'm going to be smelly, and just surrender, and it's okay. Let's just breathe through it and just continue on. These little actions and then these big macro views of life that you're talking about are like really inextricably connected.
To surrender is to stop trying to control everything. One of the central tenets to Stoicism philosophy: don't try to control what you can't control. In that box is the thoughts and opinions of other people. You cannot control that. So if we try to control that by our rationalizations, our explanations, our actions to, if I do this, then maybe that girl will like me better, and all the rest of it, it's a fool's game, and it always ends in anxiety and fear and doesn't get you the result that you wanted. So surrendering eliminates all of that what ifs and worries, because you just have this principle of like, look, I'm here, I'm doing my best, everything else will work out, and having the faith that it will, because that's how this thing works. Yeah. Which I've discovered.
Control, and I want to bring it back to our original character. Sipping on some energy drink, some pre-workout. Okay, so I told you this before, for a majority of my 20s was a heavy C4 usage that I'm not proud about. However, had a really strong enjoyment to this overly stimulated feeling, and then going into the gym and having a good workout. It was something that felt fun. You just hugely rushing on caffeine, and then going and smashing weights, started developing that habit early on. And it was something that was joyful, that seemed to contribute to the experience, and quickly, maybe after a year or so, really recognized that it was a crutch. Like, I want to go work out, and I want to have a certain experience working out that was like the max threshold, like going as far as I want, and also extremely excited and having a good time. And so part of me wanting to control that was dry scooping 2 C4s in my mouth and then chugging it down with black coffee. And it was like, that's what I did to make sure that my experience of exercising was that control. And so our characters sipping on pre-workout, I think that almost everyone who's working out, just like so many people are taking pre-workout, not necessarily because they're crazy like that, but also just because it's like normal to go into the gym and get your like little pre-workout, or all these little drinks that we like.
Yeah, so one side of it is marketing. We're marketed that we need a pre-workout drink, an intra-workout drink, a post-workout protein shake, and all the rest of it. There's nothing wrong with fueling your body beforehand, fueling your body during a workout, and also after. And there's many different holistic ways to do that. I think the ritual of having a pre-workout is what attracts a lot of people and gets them addicted in this sense. Yes, there's the caffeine, but when you shake up your shaker, that green liquid, you hit that taste, and because you've done it for so long, of months or years previously, your body, okay, now it knows it's time to go, and you find it a lot easier to get into that mindset. All of that is possible with the ritual of creating a pre-workout drink, just making it out of water, salt, honey, bit of fresh lemon, cayenne pepper for that, other blood flow increasing agents, maca root, shilajit, whatever you choose to put in that drink that is accessible. And I believe in the power of ritual, intentional ritual, and you can do the same when you're going to bed to relax with some chamomile tea with glycine. So there's the ritual of it, there's the marketing, which you don't need these pre-formulated synthetic toxic flavored powders in order to perform. And ideally you just have water and salt, and that's all you need, and then it becomes a mentality. Then there's a side of it that people aren't sleeping properly, so they're tired, so they don't have the energy, so they need the caffeine to pick them back up. That's a very real epidemic, and I think most people are simply operating their entire lives without a proper night's of sleep, which is another just epidemic that's going on in our world today. So if you use stimulants in the right setting to catch up on those days where sometimes you need to hit the gym, you're not really feeling it, you smash a double espresso with honey, it's not the end of the world. I think there's a time and a place for these chemical dependencies. I use stimulants, but most people are shortchanging themselves, ruining their gut with these drinks, artificial sweeteners, sucralose causes cancer. None of this stuff really is important or essential for optimal health, and really muscle gain as well. If you haven't got so many other pieces of the puzzle locked in, you can have all the flavored powders you want, but if you're not sleeping properly, if you're eating seed oils, you're getting no sunlight, blue light all day, you're wanking off, then it doesn't matter what flavored protein you're going to have. It's just like, it's a bit of a cope. But this is the culture of the gym today. We have very influential YouTubers promoting 0-calorie things because, if it doesn't have calories, I can just have as many scoops of this stuff as whatever, and then it doesn't make any difference. Or if it does have calories, because I'm trying to gain weight, if it has calories, it doesn't matter what's in it, as long as I get my calories, as long as I get my macros. And this bottle says in this blue drink there's 20 grams of protein. Maybe not, actually. Or maybe if there is, this level of protein, which they said in the lab, is like, yep, there's this amount of protein in there. That's not all being absorbed, if it at all. And so you have to look at behind the scenes of all these marketing gimmicks, test things, and in my experience, because I've done all that, I've experienced all that, and I've tried all the powders, my results are infinitely better. The way that I feel, the way my muscles look, the way my body performs is infinitely better when you cut all that shit out. And maybe you do have a pre-workout, post-workout, but it's raw milk with honey instead of, garbage Fairlife plastic drink bullshit. So this is the thing to think about. It's like, yes, it may take some information learning and research and trial and error to get to a more thorough understanding of how to best properly fuel your body and get your nutrition in order in this holistic way, but the results are better. You're not losing anything, you're only gaining. And to this level, I think it's important to go down that path because you feel better, look better, smell better, and that's it.
Yeah. All of these are, topics that we could really go deep into. Before we wrap today, I'd like to talk about the one that I'm always talking about, which is movement and the state of our physical body, our tissue, our joints. Because just like people are experiencing digestive issues, hormone imbalances, increasing cancer, we are also experiencing on the physical body level in terms of our tissue and our muscles a lot of chronic pain and stiffness and immobility and joint pain. That's also something that is just kind of on the rise, and all of us have experienced that. You have your own journey. Can you talk a little bit about just your journey on the development of your body and the things that you've combated, overcome, and some of the lessons you've learned?
For sure. So I've lifted weights in the traditional weightlifting manner, bro splits, and played sports at school, though the sports weren't contributing to this end state of what I experienced. Mostly it was the weightlifting. For a period of from about 18 to, about 10 years. And about 10 years into that, a couple of years ago now, I started to get this sciatic pain on my left side leg, where if I would just be sitting or lying down sometimes or bending in a certain way, I'd get this lightning nerve pain down the left side of my leg, and it was intolerable to some degrees. The worst it got was when I couldn't even sleep, because I would be in bed and just have this like through my leg. I was waking up, maybe I'd fall asleep for an hour, then wake up, and I'd literally be screaming into my pillow, just tears in my eyes, begging something to stop this. And I couldn't really figure out, like, I'd be upside down, bending this way, doing all these various protocols and movements and leg stretches, and none of it seemed to really help. Some of them helped somewhat, but this was the state I was in. I couldn't, if I was flying in an airplane, it'd be 5 hours just sitting, and I would dread it, because it would mean I couldn't be able to get comfortable, and I would just be experiencing a lot of pain. I stopped squatting heavily because obviously that was contributing to the pain. But this was the state my body was in, and this led me to figure out why this was happening, like what actually was going on. And through working with you, really, is how I managed to make progress. And I'm still not 100%, but today I can do whatever I want without pain. I can sit, try not to sit, obviously, because that's one of the reasons why I got into that mess. But I can go on an airplane for 10 hours and be totally chilling. And I can
train after.
And train after, yeah. I can heavy squat now because I've figured out what were the structural imbalances and the movement habits that were, that had led me to that spot. So it goes back to sitting really for most of the day in school, and everyone's probably had some level of this experience. We're not meant to sit for 8 hours a day. That's just the plain facts of it. And then I would sit, and then a couple of years ago, I would sit writing, doing my SolBrah stuff, then I would go train heavy, and then I would come back and sit and all the rest of it. And I was walking a little bit, but not for hours a day. So with working through with you, I kind of figured out that all of the compressive movements that I was doing through heavy weightlifting without adequate spinal extension, you can still weightlift once you figure out how to actually do it properly and you have the mobility. But what I was doing was weightlifting, and my mid back and lower back was weak, as well as my internal hip flexors. So I wasn't having that kind of stretched out and strong mid back, which was connecting my top to my bottom. And what this did was kind of, imagine something you just had like this snap in the middle, and then my nerves were getting constricted somewhat. So this started a several year journey, really, of trying to decompress my spine through a bunch of different exercises that Bam showed me and taught me, as well as figuring out how to actually properly walk again, and walking with this rotation of the spine. Our spine is meant to rotate in every facet, in every step, as well as our legs themselves rotating the right way as we come in and move. And for anyone interested in that, obviously check out Bam's YouTube channel and videos. He's the best movement teacher I've ever experienced, the best mover that I've ever seen. But really, it highlighted for me. Now I understand these things, and I can and have taught other people, like, hey man, did you know your back pain is maybe because of this, and these are things you should try. And figuring out that primal movement is really the best way to experience a life free of pain, where you can do the things that you want to do and not be limited. Mm-hmm. And now, like I said, I weightlift heavy still, but my mid back is strong enough, as well as the rest of my day outside of the gym spent doing things that can support that, rather than the weightlifting being the only thing that I'm doing, and really that being the straw that breaks the camel's back, aka my back. But then, okay, so there's also an emotional part of it, which chronic pain can tend to be emotional in its beginnings. I think part of it was that for me, but I also think I've concurrently, with these extra movement changes that I've done and physical changes, and become strong in certain movements, that as well as dealing with other emotional things have kind of concurrently occurred. Chronic pain as a thing to distract you from what you're not processing. That's how the subconscious mind can sometimes trick you. And if you have shoulder pain, it's, oh, my shoulder hurts. That can stop you from dwelling on a breakup that happened 5 years ago where you felt utterly betrayed. And that's how the mind can, like, it's easier to think about, oh, my shoulder hurts, than why did my girlfriend cheat on me? You know? And that's an example of how the mind can trick you into these phantom pains in order to get that. That wasn't exactly what happened with me, but you know, that's just something to consider. If you do have chronic pain, sometimes it's not, oh, there's a disc bulging in my back or something. Like, it's purely this emotional thing, which again, most people have it on both levels.
Yep.
So that's a whole bunch of what I learned from my journey, still learning, but I really encourage people to get back to moving, not just in the gym. And this goes back to the gym culture that's progressed. It's like squatting and everything. It's very one-dimensional in that it's, okay, barbell on my back and I'm going up, I'm going down. What's the spine doing that whole time? The row, it's not moving. It's not twisting like this. And so another caveat of that, and you'll see this in some of my YouTube workouts, is that I'll do rows now, but I'll rotate. So rather than like stiff up like this, I'll try and come up, and then it's a turn as well. Yep. And look at all that extra range of motion that I've got, that now my back is actually getting a better workout because I'm...
And the access to the lats and other larger muscles that you'll get when you allow yourself to move is really...
It's incredible. Yeah. And now I'm spinning, I'm doing flips, I'm really moving with freedom. Yeah. And that is an invaluable asset to have.
When we first met and we did your first slow motion assessment, it was like, yeah, dude, of course your body doesn't feel good. You've got some sciatic stuff. Like, let's look at how we're moving, how your feet were. They were pretty flat and out, and you're pretty in the front side. And we've done, some really good work, but it's been planting some seeds of some awareness. And I've planted many seeds of awareness with a lot of people, but I watched you take this different perspective, this different model, and allow it to analyze your body, and then you let those seeds kind of flourish in your awareness and make changes. It wasn't like this huge process that you went into. It was just a continual process as you moved with your body through these things. And it's very common that as we move through some kind of chronic pain or tension or whatever, that emotions or different psychological things, anything can come up. But at the end of the day, that body is that physical dirt that allows us to, that's my clay that I'm working with. And as I'm working with this clay, as I'm molding myself into something, then whatever it is that I need to process or move through will appear, and that will be the work. So, dude, especially right now, how you're moving, incredible. How your feet are moving, how your posture is, how you're able to just be on the ground and be comfortable. I was super impressed when we went to the jungle gym and you were able to fly across bars and grab that one. It was just made me really happy to see this progress that you've been able to really make in your body. Yeah,
well, you started that, and eternally grateful to you for that. But it's very true, because I've spent many an hour thinking about the base models that BAM taught me, but then just hours of being in my body and okay, how does this feel if I'm turning and moving and like da-da-da, and oh, my arm actually, okay, it twists like that, and so on and so forth. And that's hours of practice which will teach you something that no one can tell you. The body has an innate wisdom when it comes to every part of your health. It can tell you, actually, you shouldn't eat that today, and you should eat something like this. Maybe I need a little bit of this herb today. And they're these intuitive feelings which will guide you to directive of health. And, why do I feel shit? And just this thought will pop in your head. You didn't really eat that many fats today. You didn't eat enough fats today. And I think that mentality where you're trusting your body to tell you what it needs is this other piece of the puzzle to optimal health. Is like, there's going to be no other doctor that's better than your human body telling you, because you have this kind of micro awareness moment to moment of how you feel, the context of what you've been doing, as well as just your intuitive self that'll be like, yep, it was because of this, brother. Almost every nutrition, psychology, even exercise and training, it seems like at the peak expression of it is some kind of intuitively led thing, where it's no longer, I have to count my micros, my macros, and get this amount of proteins, and this, I have to get these exact minerals, but it's just, and I see this with even your supplement usage. It's like, no, even my supplement usage is somewhat intuitive based on what I need, especially with the salts. And like, I need to be hydrated. I need to remineralize my body with some electrolytes, all purely intuitive based. And you seem to be somebody who is almost rooted entirely in intuition, which goes back to that original topic we were talking of, surrender, which is through the intuition. Is that something that you were born with, or something that you learned to develop? It's definitely not always been this way. I've always had a strong sense of self that told, or that knew what I thought was right, and didn't really care for other people's opinion if it didn't make sense to me. But this intuitive direction of what to do or what action to take has really come about with the last couple of years of reading and opening up my access and channel to God, and my personal relationship with God, and the synchronicities I experience when I follow that path and respond to that path. Some people call it the Holy Spirit. Some people call it other things not related to, religious connotation. But that super conscious mind, which permeates all things, which is running every cellular process in every part of your body, in every animal and every human being that exists right now on Earth, and makes trees bloom and the leaves fall off. All of that is organized by some central thing, some energy. And we are part of that. All is one in that sense. So as humans, we have some higher level of consciousness that we have access to be able to intentionally tap into that. And when you practice that, you become more adept at it to the point where, and I'm sure there's further levels that I'm yet to experience, but I can just kind of think, okay, what should I do here? And then the first thing that comes to mind, yep, that feels right. And when it feels right, you just go and do it. Yeah. And it won't feel weird. It'll just, this feels right, actually. And you would have felt that as well. at home listening when things don't feel good. I don't know if I should be here right now, and then something bad happens later. It's that kind of thing. It's this psychic awareness, but it's absolutely trainable, and you train it by having faith in it and listening to it. And then when you do that the more it develops, the stronger it gets, and the easier it kind of comes to you. And that's the process that I've found.
When I was 24, I had almost the opposite of what I think gets in the way of this on a psychological level, which was I realized that the things that I was saying to myself,
Doing this?
Yes, please. The things that I was saying and then the things that I was doing were different.
Ooh, hate that.
And I
bad
was like,
place to be.
And I'm not even saying like I'm saying like, I'm going to go to the gym. And then like 10 minutes pass, I'm not at the gym, and I'm wondering like, hey, why aren't you at the gym? You just said you're going to go to the gym, and now you're not doing it. And then, something else would happen, or even something like, I should go get some water right now. And then I don't go get the water. So some small things to even big life decisions, to even plans to hang out with friends that maybe I said I was going to stay in. Someone asked me to come out, and so I go out. And it felt like when I realized this, it was a huge like eye-opening moment that I was like, whoa, my intuition, which is constantly talking to me, and then I affirm, I either am acting against that or I'm just not following through with it to the best of my abilities. And I had to spend about a whole entire year. I got really quiet and just wanted to be really sure about when my intuition spoke, and then the actions that I did were kind of as closely congruent as possible, because I realized how special that intuition was. And if I wasn't able to follow it or act it out in the world, that was the thing that I was actually like having trouble with. Have you, what do you think about when there are people in the world, similar people like myself, that the things that they say in their head and then the actions they take are not the same, and they're having this like willpower battle, which eventually leads to the body or the subconscious or the intuition not trusting you as a person, and you don't trust yourself?
So it kind of goes back to the same principle at the start where we were mentioning doing things because you want to do it versus what you think other people are thinking about you and therefore acting on that. It's like if your intuition is screaming at you, don't do this, bro, this isn't right, it just feels off, and then you don't listen to it, and then bad things occur, and then when you do listen to your intuition, you just feel better. There's always a playoff there, and this is the kind of spiritual concept of battling of your worldly desires in this 3D physical world and your higher self, higher level God-given intuition path for yourself. And it's inevitable that the more that you serve the worldly desires and ignore the intuition that's guiding you to a higher place, the worse your life gets. And that can mean working in a job that you hate because you think that your parents won't be proud of you if you don't do that, or staying in a relationship where XYZ, fill in the blank. My advice would just be that your intuition and that sense, like there's so much beauty on the other side of that, because that's like the golden path where everything, your greatest success lies, your greatest happiness lies, because God is working with you and for you in that one. But if you go down here, it's like the little path that you see with fucking crows and scary trees, and you go down that one and you're going to have a bad time. But it absolutely requires you to trust that that is a good thing, rather than other people's opinions and talking shit and projecting their stuff onto you. And you have to kind of elevate and be like, all right, I don't actually care about this worldly stuff anymore. I'm just going to follow here, and then wherever that leads me is going to be better. Yeah.
I think in both of our work, there is some really tangible, easily understood, and superficial concepts of Like, for instance, have strong feet. Maybe look at the shoes that you're wearing, or avoid plastics as much as possible. All of these things are good. We want to have strong feet. We don't want to have plastic ridden in our bloodstreams. At the other side of that, though, I feel that by doing these things, like, let's say, reconnecting my feet to the ground so that I can actually feel my movement, so I can feel my body, so I can be present in my body, so that I can hear my intuition, so that I can act out my intuition, not having plastic in my bloodstream so my inflammation is down, so my thought processes can be much more smoother, so I also, again, can have access to this intuition. I'm going out on a limb right now. Could you summarize the work that you do as a way for people to eliminate poisons or things that get in the way of their own intuition? Call it relationship with God, call it their higher path.
Mm-hmm. So
is that what you're doing? Is that what you're doing right now, like on your mission path?
I believe so. I believe that that's the prime directive for me and my works. And it makes sense. And it feels good. And it aligns with all the different health brands that I'm creating. They're all delivering to people a healthier alternative to what's out there. And you have to think of yourself as a receiver. And the more that we have that receiver covered in junk, that radio signal is going to be muffled. If we're not getting enough sunlight is the most pure, direct, holy energy you can absorb, really. And if you tell someone to just get more sun, and they do, chances are their intuition will start talking to them more than they've had in years. And all the health advice that I give out is intended to make people healthier so that they have more control over their life, because you can't do the things that you want to do as much if you have back pain, if you're fat, if you feel low energy because your body's just chock full of poisons, if you're watching porn and blue light all night and your attention is sapped and you're thinking about all this bullshit and stimulating yourself too much with God knows what. Like, all of these things that I talk about are intended to make a healthier human so that you can tap into God in order to bring about a larger, high-level consciousness, in order to maximize the amount of love and success for as many creatures in this world as possible. And if I can do that, then I've succeeded. And it's all about higher and higher levels of that, and purer levels of that. That's what I try to work on each day.
I see it in your movements. I see it in the work you've been doing, and I've been lucky and grateful to see you develop even over just a couple of years that we've known each other. The message, the mission, getting stronger, more powerful, more potent, more real, more eyes getting coming to the fold. And man, it's exciting. It's super exciting. And thank you so much for joining me today, for sharing some of your wisdom, some of your experiences, and just your energy with us. I really appreciate who you are as a person.
Thank you very much, brother. I feel the same towards you, and I love you.
Dude, I love you too. This is the Primal Movement Podcast with Bam and SolBrah. We are out.
Thanks, guys.
Peace.
Bye.